All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 10th of March, 2023, as the Flyers last night in Tampa fall 7-0 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's the rubber match of the season series. Tampa beat the Flyers in Philadelphia 6-3. Flyers beat Tampa in Philly 6-2. And Tampa gets the win last night in the rubber match 7-0. There's a lot to talk about with this game. But more importantly, where they go from this game. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's get to the particulars on the contest. As the Flyers, they get outshot in the game. You would think they got outshot, right? I mean, you lose 7-0. They got outshot 26-25. It's why I say it all the time. Maybe I overstate that I think that shots in hockey are one of the most overblown stats because you have to shoot the puck and you have to get a shot on goal to score a goal. I get it. But shot totals don't mean a whole heck of a lot. When you see that Tampa Bay had 26 shots on goal and the Flyers had 25 shots on goal, but on the scoreboard, it reads 7-0. That's why that's not really a barometer of team success. Flyers give up 4 in the first period, and it came early. It came early, and it came often. At just 1:49 into the game, Victor Hedman is able to beat Sam Ersson. Ersson didn't even see it. Double screen, mostly by his defenders, and Tampa goes up 1-0. Then at 5:55, talked in the pregame show last night and talked about it on the podcast yesterday. Not to put Tampa on the power play. They have the league's best power play, clicking it over 28%. And they get the power play early, and they get the power play goal. At 5:55, Nick Paul picks up that one, his 18th of the season. Then Connor Sheary beats Sam Ersson, and this is one that Ersson's absolutely going to want to have back. It's a clear-sighted shot. It kind of goes off the bottom of his glove and into the net. And at that point, I'm watching the game, and I'm going, okay, this is just one of those nights where it's not a goalie's night. He got touched up early, and then the power play goal, didn't have much a chance on either of those. But then the Sheary goal is the compounded effect of the way the game started. And Tampa was all over the Flyers at that point. So it's 3-0 after the Sheary goal, his third. And then at 10:49, another power play for Tampa on what was, I don't complain about officiating a whole heck of a lot, but that was a really bad call. Ronnie Adder gets his skates as he's tied up with a Tampa player as they're both going back on a puck. If that's not incidental contact, I don't know what is. And John Tortorella had a meltdown after Braden Point picks up his 33rd, again, on the power play, the subsequent power play. And that puts Tampa up 4-0. John Tortorella gets tossed in the game because he was as animated as I have seen him as the coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. And come to find out that that's just the third time John Tortorella has been tossed out of a game in his career. And the last time, Ryan Smith's telling me this, was 18 years ago, which I can't believe. So Torts is gone. He's off the bench. He didn't want to leave. He wanted to get his pound of flesh. Wes McCauley would not give it to him. And also goalie change. After the third goal, I think the coaching staff gave the heads up to Felix Sandstrom. Just get ready, be ready, because they could see where this was going. And it wasn't on Sam Ersson. It wasn't completely on Sam Ersson. Team down 4-0, not playing well. They were getting outshot at that time, I think, about 9-2. And they're down 4-0 in the game. Felix Sandstrom comes in, and it had the initial effect, pulling the goalie that you want it to have. And it woke the team up. They only gave up one more shot the rest of that period. Had some good opportunities on Andrei Vasilevsky. Couldn't beat him. So you go into the break down 4-0. Go to the second period, and Flyers do a good job in that period. Only hold Tampa to 4 shots. So from the 10-minute mark of the first period when Point scores to the end of the second, they gave up a total of 5 shots. Played better, but had nothing to show for it. Matter of fact, went the other way. Because late in that second period at 15:42, it's Duclair who picks up his 17th of the season, first as a member of the Lightning, and it's 5-0 Tampa. Then you go to the third, and it's everybody eats. Victor Hedman gets his second of the game, 6-0 Tampa, and then once again on the power play, the Tampa Bay Lightning at 8:16 of the third, Brandon Hagel picks up the goal, the extra point, and that puts Tampa up 7-0, and that's how the game would end. So it's one of those games. They unfortunately happen in hockey, and it's odd It's odd because sometimes you can see one of these games coming and you go, oh, okay, we saw this coming. We may not wanted to admit it, but the team's play was sliding. They're not playing well, and they got belted when they were trending in the wrong direction. That's not the case. I think the 2-1 win in Florida on Thursday night was one of the Flyers' most impressive wins of the season. When you consider who they were playing, Florida, best team in the NHL, had won 6 straight, 14 of their last 16 games, and they went in there and they went toe-to-toe with that team and came out with a 2-1 win. I put that Florida game right there with that 5-1 win over the Dallas Stars, which capped that 5-game win streak back in December, I believe. I put it right there with some of the biggest wins and toughest games that they've had this year. And then you can go from that game, one of your best wins, best road wins, and come right back 2 days later, not even leaving the state, and lose 7-0. Now, all that matters now, like earlier this season, and this is interesting because the next opponent. So earlier this season, the Flyers, and I had a meltdown on the podcast, I was not happy when the San Jose Sharks got their first win of this season. I think they were 0-11 at the time. We go all the way back to November 7th, and the Flyers went into San Jose. Sam Ersson played great. They lost 2-1. And that was an inflection point early in the season. They had lost 5 of their last 6, and that was an inflection point. All that mattered after that game, and that's a 2-1 game, but the reason, the logic here applies because you're losing to a team that hasn't won a game. And this is a game in Tampa where they just got smoked, 7-0. All that matters beyond that is what you do moving forward, what the path you're going to choose to take. And I say that was an inflection point back on November 7th because after that, the Flyers played really well. They went on to win 5 straight right there. Anaheim, Los Angeles, Carolina. They beat Vegas in overtime, and they beat the Columbus Blue Jackets. Then they had another little dip, and they lost 4 out of 5. Then they won 4 straight. Lost 1, won 3. So that was an inflection point on the season. And early in the season when you go, okay, which way are we going with this? Well, we know which way they went. We know where they are. They are in the 3rd spot in the Metropolitan Division. They've got a host of teams trying to chase them down to get into the playoffs, namely the Washington Capitals, the New York Islanders, and the New Jersey Devils. Devils lost yesterday. They're 8 points back, I believe, right now, and have played 1 less game. I think the Devils, the math is getting really tough for the Devils, and I don't think they're good enough. Washington, I think they'll end up fading as well. I don't think that they're going to be the team. The team to look out for is the New York Islanders, who have won 5 straight under Patrick Roy. They were not in action last night. And where the Islanders sit right now is with 3 games in hand and 4 points back and playing some of their best hockey of the season. Now, their schedule's tough. They still have West Coast trip and their Western Canadian trip. But the Flyers got to take care of their own business. And where they go from here is all that matters. So going back to November 6th, that loss was against San Jose. Maybe the Flyers went in there feeling pretty good and took the opponent for granted. There's no way on God's green earth they should take the San Jose Sharks lightly for 2 reasons. 1, they lost to San Jose already this season. 2, after you get beat 7-0, you can take nothing for granted. You go out there and you beat an inferior team without question. Without question. They have to go into that game and come away with a win. And then I'll add a 3. 3 is what's coming up after San Jose. The 7 games after the Sharks, where you have Toronto at home, Boston on the road, Toronto at home, Carolina on the road, Boston at home, Florida at home, the New York Rangers on the road. That is 7 of the top teams in the Eastern Conference after San Jose, all with high-end players. So you cannot take San Jose lightly in any shape or form after losing 7-0, after what's on deck after that in the 7 games, and you're in a playoff race. You have to go out there and be ready to play. Doesn't matter who the opponent is. and you have to come away with 2 points. Because it doesn't matter what San Jose is. The 2 points in the standings are still the 2 points in the standings. How does Sam Ersson bounce back from this? And getting pulled 10 minutes in, giving up 4 goals? I don't worry about him, to be honest with you. He's a guy that I didn't love the game that he had in Washington back on March 1st, that Friday night game where the Flyers lost 5-2. He came back and played a really good game against St. Louis in a 2-0 shootout or 2-1 shootout loss. He played really well in Florida. I don't know that Sam Ersson gets the game on Tuesday. I think that was probably a Felix Sandstrom game. That was probably a scheduled Felix Sandstrom game or backup goalie game. I don't know that you go away from that just because Sandstrom played 50 minutes against the Lightning. Maybe they go back to Ersson. I'm not sure. We'll see how that plays out. I would tend to wager that was originally a Felix Sandstrom game. We'll see if it still is. But you don't worry about Ersson. He bounces back. The team has bounced back. I know, and I got a DM from a guy on Twitter saying, team cannot lose a game like this. This is utterly embarrassing. They're going nowhere. They're not even going to make the playoffs. Here's the deal. Whether you lost that game 1-0, 4-3, or you lost that game 7-0 like they did, it's still just one game. And it's not like their team play, their game of late, has been taking on water and this looked like a predictable outcome and it was trending in that direction. That's not the case here. This one is different. Sometimes you can see these games coming. So I know the dirt and shovel brigade out there who love to just stand by, and as soon as the team has a poor performance, they want to just start shoveling the dirt on the coffin of the team. They've done that. You've done that at your peril all season long. We'll see how they respond. This is different now than it has been at other points in the season. Why? Because we're towards the end of the season. And these games, frankly, they do mean more when you're in this playoff race. They are more important. You've played 65 games. You've got yourself in position. There are teams chasing you, trying to take your playoff spot. And there's a pressure that goes with that. And you've had attrition with the roster due to injury or obviously the Sean Walker trade. So there are some things going against them right now. What do they do in this situation? How do they handle it as a team? And we'll wrap up on this, but this is why being in this position is so important. If you always want to know, if you got to go into a foxhole with somebody, you want to know that person, when it comes time, the rubber meets the road, whatever cheesy saying you want to use, you want to know that person is going to panic and is going to rise up to it. Same thing in team sport. You want to know how players handle pressure, how players handle situations like this. You can ask a player how he'd handle it, and he'll give you a bunch of words, but words don't mean anything because it's not real. We're going to get a first-hand look on how Cam York's going to handle this, how Sam Ersson is going to handle this, how Noah Cates, Tyson Forster, Morgan Frost, Owen Tippett are going to handle this. We need to see how Sean Couturier is going to handle it, and Travis Konechny and other players, and Travis Sanheim. But we're going to learn a lot about how this team responds to pressure. Because in sports, like the regular season, the 82, like I love it, it's fun, but ultimately it's about winning it at all. And you're never going to go on a run to a championship or a run in the playoffs if you can't handle obscene amounts of pressure. And you need to make sure when you're building a team for Danny Briere that he's got guys that can handle pressure. And if there's anybody to make that assessment, are there many people better than Danny Briere who in the playoffs performed at his absolute best? That's what we're going to learn. It starts Tuesday. You grab this game, this 7-0 loss against Tampa, you crinkle it up and you toss it in the wastebasket. Nothing you can do about it now. All you can do and all that matters is where you go moving forward. You don't have time to hang on to this game, overanalyze it, none of that stuff. You don't have time. You got to get right back at it Monday at practice, and then Tuesday against the Sharks, and then those 7 straight games against playoff-bound teams. So you don't have time to wallow about it, feel sorry for yourself, none of that. Got to get right back at it, and they'll do that Tuesday against San Jose. We'll be right back at it tomorrow. Bill Meltzer will come in for his weekly visit, Mondays with Meltzer. So join us tomorrow on a brand new Flyers Daily.